In this episode, I'm giving a behind the scenes on our most recent launch that did over $500,000. So keep listening.
Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we have a different type of episode, an episode we have not done yet on the podcast, and we'll see how it goes. So we're going to break down our last launch. So we did a launch in August of the Video 4X Effect, and I feel like it was probably the most dialed in we've been as far as it goes with messaging, strategy. I think in the last 2.5 years, this is probably launch number 6 or so. You know, we started the Video 4X as a program that helps entrepreneurs fix video inside their business or implement video inside their business, everything from workflows to strategy to messaging. And it's evolved into a messaging program. And that was a big lesson for me to learn, is that what you start with won't be what you end with. And the messaging and what the program is, the offer, will evolve over time. And it just gets better and better and better and better each and every launch. So our launch was a multiple 6-figure launch. I'm going to talk a little bit about both launches. So this is when you're listening to this podcast, I'm recording this 2020, October of 2020. And 2020, we had 2 of our biggest launches that we've ever done with the Video 4X Effect. But they're 2 different styles of launches. So launch number 1, we did in March of 2020, like literally right before the pandemic hit. And we did our biggest launch yet. We had affiliates. So we had Rick Mulready and we had James Wedmore, Shannon Irvin, all pushing for us. And we did roughly around 900,000. So good launch. And what we did differently this time was that we had no affiliates. So the launch that we did in August had no affiliates, and we did roughly around 600,000, but we're going to talk about something else, that usually the money that you make just on your launch isn't all the money that you make. And so we'll talk about what we did. We're going to talk everything about, we're going to break down the numbers for you. What did we spend? How much money did we spend? What was the strategy like? What was the profit margins? What was the total revenue on all of these things? What were the back end offers? All of this stuff. We're going to just bring you guys behind the scenes of our business, and we're going to break it down. So what I want to say before we dive into the numbers is that it's very easy, and this is one of my pet peeves inside of the space, where people just talk about their great and biggest launches, and it's awesome and it's inspiring, but I think it also gives people a really big misconception of what's possible really quickly. So I just want to give a little overview of what it's taken to get to this point where, yes, we did roughly $900,000 in March. We did roughly $600,000 in August. And altogether, it's about 1.5 million just from those 2 launches of sales generated. Obviously, not all of that is collected because there's payment plans and stuff like that. But you have to understand, and you have to realize that we're refinancing our house right now because the mortgage rates are insane. And so we're refinancing the house, and they asked me a question of like, when was the business developed? When was the business founded? And I was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And so I went and looked, and it was 2011. It was 9 years ago when I formed my business. Now, granted, the first year, the business was just more of a hobby. I still had a full-time job. I was still doing things on the side, stuff like that. It probably and then we started Sold with Video, and Sold with Video is a lot different, but it's probably been, from launching digital courses, it's probably been around 6 years for me. And I've launched courses by myself. I've done evergreen things. I've launched my own stuff. I've partnered with James Wedmore on a program called Local Video Academy. I had a different business partner a while ago too that we created a program together and sold that and made that really successful. And then I got into the Video 4X. And then even when we got into the Video 4X, I had had years of experience and knowing of how to do launches and sell digital courses. Then we were able to do 1.2 million in 9 months selling services and all of that stuff with the Video 4X. But that comes with the background that I've acquired. You know, I didn't just hop into this, take a course and then go and launch something. You have to get the experience down. You have to test the messaging. You have to know the strategy. You have to feel it and really know it. And that took time. So for me to get to this point, I had all of that. Then we launched the Video 4X. And then we did a beta launch right off the bat, which was just a webinar. We pre-sold it. Then we did another beta launch, which was a webinar style launch. And then we did a bigger video series launch a couple months later with some affiliates. Then we did another launch after that video series launch that didn't do so hot. Then we came back and redid the video series, had a much bigger launch. And that's kind of where the story is. But the thing is what I want you guys to really grasp is that I didn't just hop in and just like, oh, cool, let's just do this launch. And oh my God, we did 900,000. Like that's far and few between. That's like the top 1% of 1% of people will be able to do something like that. Every once in a while, you hear the story of someone who within their first year, like did a 7-figure business, but that's so rare and few. That's not really very common. So to set the expectations in the right place, I want you guys to realize is that look at the numbers and look at what we're doing, but move it into a ratio of where you're at or where you want to be. And just understand that the experience that you get will lead and could lead to bigger and better launches, but you're not going to start off usually doing like a $500,000, $600,000 launch. Okay. So I just it's taken me a while to get to this point to be able to do these bigger things. And I want you to understand that what I'm about to go over might vary a little bit different from my business to yours, meaning I sell a $3,000 course with a $12,000 or $13,000 VIP version, which is our mentorship program. And so when I talk about things like conversion rate, we actually have a pretty low conversion rate considered or compared to the industry standard, but our price point is so high so that it obviously is going to be a lot lower, right? So like if I get 1,000 people to opt in, and 1% of them convert, that might be like, well, that's a pretty small conversion rate. Yeah, but our lifetime value of a customer is so high that we don't need a huge conversion rate. However, if I was selling a $20 membership, you obviously are going to want a much higher conversion rate, and you should get a much higher conversion rate. So you have to understand the results and everything will vary before we get into the numbers. And I want to break down a little bit again of how I've been able to get to this point. And a lot of it is taking risks. I think we've probably spent, if I had to guess, we've probably spent over $1 million in ad spend between the years of me launching stuff. I've probably gotten close to $1 million in ad spend. We've obviously made millions of dollars off that, but our last launch alone, we spent $125,000. And so I've got to be somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million in ad spend. Spent testing, tweaking. And when you spend that amount of money, you learn a lot of things. And a lot of that came from like, I was launching a couple products and then all of a sudden started, and I was doing okay with it. And I had a service that I was doing pretty good with, and definitely over 6 figures for sure, maybe even 200,000 a year. And then I partnered with James Wedmore and we launched a program called Local Video Academy. And back then, I don't think James even had $1 million business yet. But he did have the experience of doing a couple like multiple 6-figure launches, and we launched this thing and I got to see behind the scenes of what we were doing. And then I was able to go and launch my own thing. So Local Video Academy was a product that we had for a couple of years. It did really well, but then both of us kind of like lost our passion for it. It wasn't really what we wanted to do and teach for the rest of our lives. So we kind of let that product die out. He started Business by Design. I went and partnered with someone else on creating a different video program. And then about after a year of that, I stopped that and created the Video 4X effect. And now we're both in our separate realms, James and his and me and mine, of what we want to do and launch. So with that said, let's move into the actual launch and break down. So we did 2 launches this year. We looked at our numbers from 2019 and we realized we only launched once. And it was pretty interesting looking at that. That launch did about 180,000. So for us, that wasn't a great success because we spent a lot in money. We did about 160,000, I think, actually. We spent around 60,000 in ad spend. And so most people would be like, well, you made 100 grand. That's great. Well, we spent 60 and we made 60 back right off the bat. So we were even, and then we just had reoccurring payments over the next year of that equaled up to about 90 to 100,000. So it was great. But what most people don't consider is that when we do a launch, we need that launch money to come in for the overhead of the company. So some people might be going like, well, yeah, you profited, $10,000 a month for a year. That's great. And it's like, well, it's not so great when you're budgeting for $15,000 a month of overhead and you needed that money to be higher. So realistically, like we might not have even profited off of that. We might have just made enough to cover our bills until the next launch or whatever. But we did do $1 million that year, but a lot of it was from our agency and our mentorship sales. It wasn't really from launching. So this year we wanted to be a little more intentional with what we did. So what we decided to do this year was we decided to do an affiliate launch and also an internal launch. Now there's a couple of reasons as to why we do this. Number one, we do the affiliate launch at the beginning of the year because we want to go start the year with a big bang. We want to just like have a huge launch. We want to create a big buzz around it. It's the beginning of the year. People are excited. They're setting New Year's resolutions. They're ready to kick butt for the rest of the year. We try to bring on affiliates as well because a lot of people don't really launch in the beginning of the year. So we know a lot of affiliate schedules would be open. And we decided to do that at the beginning of 2019. So we had Rick Mulready, we had James Wedmore, we had Shannon Irvin, and they all did really well. And we all basically started that launch in January. So building a runway, building buzz, all of that stuff. And we did roughly around $900,000 all said and done on that launch. After ad spend, after affiliate payouts, I don't know the actual numbers on the affiliate payouts, but I mean, it was at least a couple $100,000 that we paid out to affiliates. Ad spend was roughly 75,000. So I'd say about 40% of that revenue was like gone, right? So like take 40% of that 900,000 and it was gone. And so again, but that's still great. Like those are still great numbers. But the reason why we do affiliate and then an internal is because a lot of people will not buy right on the launch, but they will buy on launch number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, one of the statistics that James shared with me was that on one of their most recent launches, I believe I could be messing up the number, but it was like 50% of the people who bought had been through a previous launch. And so what we do is we bring on affiliates. It's their job to make sure that their leads convert. Obviously, it's our job to make sure that their leads convert as well, but we know not everybody is going to convert. So what we want to do is and that's a great thing about affiliate launches is those people are now on your list. So what we do for the next 6 months is we warm them up, we build a relationship with them, we put in the work to build that connection with them. And then what we do is we do an internal launch. So we now bring them into the internal launch and we still do a lot of ads. So we bring in a lot of cold traffic, warm traffic, but there's new people on our list that weren't there before that we can run into our launch. And if they buy this time, there's no affiliate payouts because we're doing an internal launch. There's no affiliates involved in that process. So we like doing an affiliate and then an internal. And so that's what we decided to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down our non-affiliate launch for you guys that we just wrapped up in August. So let's go through the top end numbers. The revenue made was roughly, it was about $598,000. So what we did is actually, well, let me go back. We did when Cart closed, we had done about around $576,000 is kind of where we were at Cart close. Now, when I say 576,000, what I'm saying is projected revenue. So if everyone makes all of their payments then that's the money that was made off of that launch. So we add up all of the money. So here's the payment plan that if everyone makes all the payments, that's total revenue. So you're going to collect about half of it upfront on average from my experience. So that's about 250 something thousand in the bank or whatever that we had right then and there. Then what we did is after cart closed, everyone who didn't buy, we offered a downsell to our thought reversal course for $1,000. Now the thought reversal course is just a sliver of the Video 4X, but we position it as, hey, Video 4X may not have been a right fit for you in this moment. Would you like the thought reversal course to hold you over into our next launch? And we'll credit you that $1,000 you're spending on it to the Video 4X when you purchase. And so we had 21 people take us up on that. So that's another additional $21,000, $22,000. So all said and done, we're right at like $600,000 after the downsell. And that was to us, that was great. That was a huge success. So what we did at that point is we looked at, there's no affiliate payouts. So we looked at ad spend. This time around, we spent around $125,000 on ads, about $97,000 with, of that was Facebook ads. And then about $20,000 to $25,000 of it was Google. And we had some issues with Google, so I don't really know how profitable the Google ads were this time around. But all said and done, we collected about $250,000. We spent around $125,000. We were left with $125,000 in profit. And then we had all of our reoccurring happening up after that. And I want you guys to look at that. When I say I did a $600,000 launch, I think people get this misconception that, oh my God, they have like $600,000 in the bank. And it's like, no, after everything, we're left with $125,000, which is still great. That's $125,000 we get to throw in our savings account, and it brings more security to the company, and all of that stuff. So again, not complaining, but I just want to make sure and give you guys a real look behind what the numbers actually mean. But that does mean we have about $20,000 to $30,000 a month of recurring revenue coming in from that too, which is really awesome. And that's why I love launches and payment plans, is that the payment plans bring in a lot of security and they bring in a lot of consistent revenue that you can expect every single month. So all said and done, if we get paid on everything, like everyone makes their payments and all of that stuff, we're probably going to bring in an annual revenue into the company around $470,000, so in that range from that launch. And that was amazing and great. Now, something to consider is that with the launch in March of 2020 and the launch of August 2020, I believe we welcomed around 400 customers. Now, what most people don't consider into their funnel, into their business, is that when you sell a course or do a launch, the revenue doesn't stop there. We want to look at ways that we can upsell those people into higher levels or more things. It doesn't just stop when the launch is done. The launch is a great opportunity to make money, but it's a great opportunity to bring in customers who will buy more things. And a lot of revenue can be made on the back end if you guys have a plan for that. So what we do is that when 2 weeks after cart closes and people get to experience the course and realize that they might need help with it, we have a back end upsell email sequence to get them to apply to the mentorship program to see if they need more help. So we had a couple of sales come in from that on both launches. But what we really do is we really aim and move our focus to an annual event. So we have a Video 4X Live. And Video 4X Live takes all the Video 4X members, but especially the people from the most recent 2 launches, has them come to a live event. And it's always the most transformational, powerful experience. But we do offer them to upsell into the mentorship program. So when we look at our launch that did around 900, we look at our launch that did 600, that's about 1.5 million. And then when we look at our upsell from the event, we did about additional 150,000. So we're looking at like 1.65 million in revenue between everything. Now, I think within our company, we can do a better job with that back end upsell. I mean, it still did great and amazing, Our problem is because has a lot of one-on-one effort, that we have to get the right process and structure in place to be able to fulfill on scaling that thing out. But I feel like next year in 2021, we'll have a better way of processing more people into that, or possibly even raising the price on it, so that we can make more revenue off of that. And I think that's a big thing that most people miss, is there's a lot of revenue opportunities for you with the customers you already have. So if you can figure out a process to upsell them or sell them more things, you could actually quickly add more revenue to your company without any upfront marketing. So there's no ad cost involved. There's no like big launch involved. It could literally just be an email sequence, an application within your program, bring them to an event where you make an offer. So that's what the beauty of this is it's not going to cost you anything because they're already a customer, but you get to make more revenue. So let's talk about the funnel. The next thing is the funnel of our launch. So the funnel of our launch was starting with a opt-in, which is what we call the content that influences. So what we do is when we look at a launch, we look at, hey, here's when the launch is going to go. Here's the offer. Here's what we're selling. And then we look at the theme. What's the theme of the launch? So we look at our top performing thought reversals and we find out which thought reversal is performing the best. So for us, that's always something along the lines of how-to content is not how to grow an audience fast. And we look at that and go, wow, people really resonate with this. So let's bring them through that entire theme throughout our entire funnel. So what we do is we go, okay, great. That thought reversal did really well. About a month before our launch starts, we're going to do a no pitch training. And we call that the content that influences, which talks about 3 different types of content you should be using without relying solely on how-to content, because our thought reversal told us that's what people want. So about a month before we started running ads to the video series, we started running people into that lead magnet. So what we did inside that lead magnet was get people to go into a pop-up Facebook group. So it's like, hey, you got the training, get into the group to discuss the training, all of that stuff. Now the training had no pitch in it, but it did tell people to register for the video series. So when people started opting in for our lead magnet, our job at that point was to get them into the Facebook group and create demand for our video series. Now the video series is our sales mechanism. So what we're doing is we're creating buzz, almost like a movie premiere of our video series dropping. So our job is just pushing that date down their throats and getting them super excited to watch the video series. So if you're having a problem getting someone to show up to your webinar or video series, you're probably not building demand to the release of that video series. So inside the pop-up group, what we did, and I think a lot of people mess this part up, is we didn't really give them more training per se. Like they didn't learn anything extra inside of that group. We just gave them more training on what they've already learned. And so what I mean by this is, hey, something like, hey guys, you've learned the 3 types of videos from the content that influences training. Let me show you some examples of those. And then I show them an example and I break down, here's the results it got, here's what we were doing, here's why it's so effective. And we did that type of stuff. So here's some examples. Let me break down over here. Let me show you how this relates over here. Hey guys, I just did a video post like this. You can see the thought reversal sequence and over here. So again, we're not giving them more information. We were just getting them excited about the concepts. And I think most people mess that up. Most people just give more, and then it's overwhelming and people think they have everything they need. And what you want to do is you want to break down things and continue to expand what they've already learned, but let them know you're going to go even further with it and give them more information in the sales mechanism. And so that's what we did. Then we released the video series and we did something different with the video series this time. Instead of just saying, hey guys, the video series is live, go watch it, we actually offered what we call a watch party. So what we said is, video series is dropping. You guys can totally go watch it on this day. But if you want to watch it live with us, we're going to have everyone on Zoom. We're going to stream it over Zoom. After each video, I'm going to stop, answer any questions, break down that video, make sure you got the most valuable points from that video. And so we had about 70 people show up live to this. And I don't know how many people watched the replay, but that was one of the most powerful things that we did. One of the reasons why is because if I'm going to go over and watch the sales mechanism with them, aka my video series, I have complete control over the points that enter their brain. So if there's amazing thought reversals, or there's amazing things from an influence and persuasion standpoint, or from a sales standpoint, I now get to reiterate those to make sure they grasp those in the watch party. So every video is another opportunity for me to create demand for the program, for me to create demand for the next video, for me to create demand for whatever I want. And that watch party did really, really well for us. And we're going to continue to do that from here on out. Now, one of the things we did inside the Facebook group after the video series released is we did a game show. And we've done this a few times and it always works out great. Now, here's why I love the game show. The game show worked out really well because what it is questions based on the video series. So if you're having a hard time getting someone to show up to the webinar, watch the replay, go to a challenge, watch the video series, the game show could be a perfect solution to that. So what we did was we gave away a grand prize of $500. So it was a $500 gift card to Amazon and a $500 credit to the Video 4X program if they wanted to. And then we had a second place prize for $250, and we had a third place prize for like $100. So what we did is we would ask questions, and whoever was the first two people to answer the question correctly, they would get a certain amount of entries or tickets into a drawing or a random number selector thingy-mo. And we would just there would be a thing that randomly pick someone. And so what we would do in that was we would promote that, hey, we're going to do this game show, huge prizes. Make sure you go watch the video series. So all of our language leading up to the game show is go watch the video series, go watch the video series. You need to have it studied. And what we found out from our launch was that over 50% of the people who bought rewatched the video series at least one time. So they watched not only did they watch the entire video series, but they rewatched it at least one more time. And I have to assume the reason that happened was because of the game show. They're rewatching it multiple times. And obviously it's because of the way the video series was scripted and things like that, probably taking notes and whatnot. But those were really great things for us in this launch. So just to kind of recap, we had our lead magnet. What we did with the lead magnet is it's a no pitch training that creates demand for the video series. We took all of those leads and ran them into the video series. Then at that point, we started getting people to opt in for the video series. Once people would opt in for the video series, we'd push them all into a Facebook group as well. So we're getting all these people into our Facebook group. I think all said and done, we had around 11,000 opt-ins on this launch. About 3,000 of them ended up entering the Facebook group, which I think we can improve on in our next launch. And I think just having that on the thank you page after people opt in, pushing them right into the Facebook group, or having a freebie for them inside that Facebook group is the way that we're going to do that in the next round. Then what we did is we built demand for the video series. Once the video series was live, we did the watch party so they would watch it with us. And then after that, we did a game show, which were questions based on the video series. So people had to go back and watch the video series. And all of our lives, one of the best things I think we did is all of our lives and all the things that we did is for engagement inside that Facebook group weren't teaching people more stuff, but it was breaking down what they've already learned. So we did things like live hot seats of breaking down messaging, breakdowns of what our concepts are working in other people's businesses. We would do hot seats live on Instagram Live. We did a Zoom one. We did all sorts of stuff, just expanding on what they've already learned. So let's move on to Facebook ads. We spent around $97,000 on Facebook ads, and we did about $600,000 in revenue. Obviously, not all of that $600,000 came from the Facebook ads, but a lot of it did. I mean, a lot did, because even if we had warm traffic, they may have clicked on a remarketing ad for cart close. They might have engaged with one of the opt-in ads. And I always tell people, you can't rely on just ads or just organic. They work together. So I may send someone an email and they might see, okay, great, the video series is going on, and might not opt in. But if they see my ad 3 or 4 times, well, now they're going to opt in. So the way the attribution works is that if anyone is engaging or interacting with our ad, and then they end up buying, the attribution will go back to that ad. So Facebook ads were really successful for us. And I don't remember the exact numbers of the, the slick internet marketing people will call it the ROAS, but the return on ad spend. Is that what it is? ROAS, return on ad spend, is probably around 4 times, if not 5, I would want to say, somewhere in that range. So we spent $97,000. We probably made around $400,000 or $500,000 off of those ads. And then the way the ads worked was we started the pre-launch, the runway ads, about 6 weeks before. About 6 weeks before cart open. We ran those for about 2 weeks. And then once we did the content that influences trading, we switched it over to opt-in ads for about 3 to 4 weeks because we wanted to give it enough time to generate enough leads that we needed. And then the final week was all cart close. So let's retouch on the numbers. Just so you guys know, our conversion rate on this launch was about 1.1% before the downsell. And then it was about 1.3% after the downsell. So meaning 1.3% of our opt-ins actually bought. And I would say that's pretty low. I think we can actually do a better job to get that closer to 2%. But the thing is most people, when you're selling courses and stuff, will try to aim anywhere from 2.5% to 5%. But we don't need them to do that because every customer is worth $4,000 to us. So as you guys could see, we had a 1.3% conversion rate, but we profited around $470,000. So was the conversion rate really that bad? No, I think for our price and our value that we get per customer, that was fine and extremely profitable. So again, you have to look at like, what is your product? How much is that customer value worth? And what are the percentages on all of that stuff? So I would say it was fine and okay and profitable for us. In that aspect, I would say it's a good conversion rate, but I actually think we can over time get that closer to 2%. The video series numbers were, let me think if I can remember these. The video series numbers where we had 11,000 leads and we had about 4,000 of those leads go through the video series, like through the whole thing. And I wouldn't say those are great numbers either. So I would say those are probably around 30 to 40%. I would say that's about normal. So most people get a little freaked out of like, oh, I only get like a 25% show up rate or a 30% show up rate. It doesn't matter. You have to assume that most of the people aren't going to go through or attend the thing. You just like spark something in their mind in that moment. They opt in. And then now you're going to have to ask them to like put all their attention and focus and rearrange their schedule to like make sure they're showing up. And it's just not going to happen realistically. But if you do a good job to create demand and a great job creating momentum, much like a movie does with a movie premiere where they spend months just saying, here's the date. Oh my God. A lot of people will show up on that opening day and then more will kind of trickle in. And some people get excited about it and then they never even go, but then they might watch it when it comes out on DVD or it gets released online or whatever. And the way I look at it is, we had 11,000 leads. We had about a 40% show up rate to actually watch the video series. We got 40% of the population who was excited about to show up at the premiere, just much like a movie premiere was, which means to me, we have 60% of those people who are waiting to watch it on DVD. And to me, what that means is DVD is essentially our next launch. So we have 60% of people who might be waiting for it to come out on the next launch, or maybe they're going to see our ad for something else that we're selling down the line. They're on our list. We can email them again. We can remarket them again. So it's not a wash, like I think a lot of people look at everything so one-dimensionally, short-term, without looking at the long-term. Long-term opportunity on those 6,000 leads that didn't go through the video series is huge. If we do things right, we have a massive list that's untapped and didn't buy. And what gets me really excited about this is we had 11,000 people and we had about 120, 130 of them actually buy. And most people go like, wow, that's a 1% conversion rate. It's not great. We made profit. But to me, what that means is we still have 10,900 or 850 people, and especially 4,000 of them who are so interested that they watch the video series that haven't bought yet. That is a massive, massive opportunity. Now, we did break down who bought and what did they do. There's a huge percentage of people. Well, let's just do this. There's one more thing that we did in this launch that we didn't talk about. Never done this before, but I think it was huge for us. And this is why networking is so important in this type of business, and most people just ignore it. One thing that we did is I reached out to my network. So I talked to James Wedmore, talked to Carrie Green, Julie Solomon, Rick Mulready, Screw the 9 to 5. So Jill and Josh Stanton. And I asked them, and I did a podcast episode with all of them and asked them to release their episode all within a week of the video series dropping. And they all did it. And that was massive. Now, we only generated about 300 leads total from that, which I thought was a little low. But what I started to realize is those were the highest quality leads that we had in the entire launch. The reason why is they listened to me talk for 45 minutes before ever entering our sales funnel. And we had about 20 to 30 people who never even watched the video series and bought. And almost all of them bought because they heard me speak somewhere like a podcast before. And we don't have the actual numbers on this yet, but I'm willing to bet that almost all of them listened to me on one of those podcasts. In fact, we had people in our mentorship program that said, I didn't even watch the video series. I just bought because I heard you on that one of the podcasts. I won't name which one, who came from where, but they heard me on one of the podcasts. As soon as they heard me speak, they're like, oh, I'm in for sure. They've heard me speak. I spoke at someone else's mastermind. They said, as soon as I heard you speak at that mastermind, I knew I was going to buy the next time you launched. So a lot of these things have a really big impact that sometimes aren't really measurable. So for us, doing that podcast thing and a lot of organic methods really helped us out a lot in this type of this launch. So just a reminder, I'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do for our next launch, but just a reminder, a lot of this stuff we're always testing and tweaking. Like the whole podcast idea, I didn't know if it was going to work, but it worked out great. A lot of this stuff takes time. A lot of these types of things takes experience and knowing of how to do. This isn't generally something that you're going to like launch and do right off the bat. You guys also have to remember, I have a team of, I'm not really sure how big our team is, but I would say at least 10 people, including our overseas team and all that stuff. But we have at least 5 people, including me internally, that are all executing on this launch. So it's not just me doing a lot of this stuff. We also had a salesperson. So we had Adam Cadoo doing sales calls for us, which is something I didn't talk about. I should talk about that before we end this episode, doing sales calls for us. So my focus was just on doing lives, engaging with the students, and the team took care of everything else. We had Terrell running ads. We had Brittany handling social media. We had Matt handling ads and some of the marketing. We had Taylor basically running the show. We had Emily making sure that our current students are always up and the Facebook group was engaged with. So when you start adding up like Adam, Terrell, Emily, Matt, Jackie was there too. Like we had like 7 or 8 dedicated people all working on different parts of this launch. So it's not only did I have the experience for it, but we also have the team for it too. So you have to keep that in mind too. One thing that I will say that we did that was really cool is we had, and I think that a lot of people miss the step up where I think because we have online businesses, people forget to do offline tactics like sending things in the mail or phone calls and stuff like that. So we started doing phone calls years ago. And a lot more people are starting to do it now as well. But what we do is when the people go through, our audience goes through the video series, we tell them the Video 4X is opening and they can get on the wait list. So we had about 275 people get on the wait list for the Video 4X. And then we just emailed them and said, do you want to see if you're right fit for the program? Book a call with Adam. And so Adam basically did sales calls. And then on our sales page, we said, if you aren't sure if you're right fit, book a call with our team. And so I think Adam did around 60 calls and he closed 75% of those people. Now, what's great is that he does this the weekend before cart opens. So cart opens on a Monday. He did it Saturday and Sunday. And we actually had closed $120,000 in revenue before cart even opened. And then on opening day, we did about another $130,000. So sales calls were absolutely vital for us. So that's basically our last launch. That's kind of the breakdown of where our money went, what we did, a little bit of what our strategy was, me being transparent with the numbers and how much we spent and all of that stuff. And then our plans for our next launch is another affiliate. So we have an affiliate launch approaching in March, and we're going to go bigger and better on this one. So our goal is to spend $200,000 to $250,000, which has me a little worried just because that's the most money we've ever spent. I mean, I know we'll get it back, but it's expanding my comfort zone for sure. But we have big goals. We have a $3 million goal for this upcoming launch, and our team's going to operate with the understanding that we're going to do a $3 million launch. So it's going to be like the Be Do Have model. Everyone on our team has a role and responsibility for that launch, and they need to be executing it as if they did a $3 million launch. We're going to have our team sit down and look at, when we do a $3 million launch, what does that look like as a team? And what does my role look like in that launch? And I'm going to start acting and doing and thinking that way now, so that when we get in launch mode, we're already operating as a $3 million launch, and we'll see how it goes. But we're going to have affiliates. We're going to bring our students on this time to be affiliates as well. So we have a lot of really cool affiliates with big followings. So we're going to have our main people from my network, my friends, come in and promote. And then we're also going to have our students come on and be affiliates as well. And so once that launch happens, we'll break it down with all the numbers on that one as well. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it's a little different than our past episodes, but hopefully it gives a little bit more behind the scenes of what our launches look like, what the numbers look like, what our strategy looks like, what's really involved and all of that stuff. And if there's something that we missed, there's something that you feel like we could have expanded on, or more numbers that you would have liked to see or would like to see in the next one, feel free to hop over to Instagram. I am Brandon Lucero, and just send us a DM. And again, this is just an experimental podcast that we did. Let us know how you liked it. And I guess that's it. I'll see you guys on the next episode.
Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.